In Young Sherlock, one of the most intriguing figures behind the season's larger mystery is Shou'an. At first glance, Shou'an doesn't appear to be the obvious mastermind pulling the strings. In fact, the series intentionally frames her as someone who blends quietly into the background of events. But as the story unfolds, it becomes clear that Shou'an is not just involved in the mystery, she is carefully orchestrating it. Her plan is complex, patient, and incredibly calculated, making her one of the most dangerous opponents the young Sherlock Holmes has faced so far. What makes Shou'an's plans so fascinating is the way she approaches control. Unlike villains who rely on brute force or sudden violence, Shou'an builds her strategy slowly. She observes people closely, studies their motivations, and then uses that knowledge to manipulate situations in her favor. Instead of acting impulsively, she creates a network of influence where every move serves a purpose. Each person she interacts with becomes part of a larger design, whether they realize it or not. Throughout the season, many of the strange incidents that Sherlock investigates initially appear unrelated. Small crimes, suspicious encounters, and unusual behavior from different characters seem scattered across the story. But Shou'an's genius lies in how these events connect beneath the surface. None of them are random. Each one serves as a stepping stone toward her larger objective. She carefully creates confusion so that investigators, including Sherlock, spend time chasing separate problems rather than recognizing the pattern behind them. Another key part of Shou'an's plan is psychological manipulation. She understands that controlling information can be more powerful than controlling people directly. By deciding what certain individuals know and what they don't know, she shapes their decisions without them realizing it. Some characters are pushed into actions they believe are their own choices, when in reality they are responding exactly the way Shou'an predicted they would. This is where the real battle between Shou'an and Sherlock begins. Sherlock is famous for his ability to notice patterns and tiny inconsistencies others overlook. Even at a young age, he starts to realize that something bigger is happening behind the scenes. The clues are subtle at first, repeated names appearing in different investigations, similar methods being used in separate incidents, and certain individuals showing up in places where they shouldn't logically be connected. Slowly, Sherlock begins to understand that someone with a brilliant strategic mind is coordinating these events. That someone is Shou'an. What makes Shou'an such a compelling antagonist is that she doesn't just react to Sherlock's investigations, she anticipates them. Part of her plan involves predicting how Sherlock will approach each mystery. She knows that he will follow logical patterns, so she deliberately constructs situations designed to mislead that logic. In other words, Sherlock is not just solving a puzzle, he's solving a puzzle that was specifically designed to challenge him. Shou'an also uses timing as a powerful tool. Many of the events she orchestrates unfold slowly, allowing tension and confusion to build over time. By spacing out her actions and letting different pieces of her plan develop independently, she prevents anyone from seeing the entire picture at once. Even when Sherlock begins uncovering certain truths, he still doesn't fully understand how far her influence extends. Another fascinating element of Shou'an's strategy is that she tests people. Rather than simply using them as pawns, she observes how they react under pressure. When someone faces a difficult moral choice or a dangerous situation, their response reveals their strengths and weaknesses. Shou'an gathers this information and uses it to refine her plan, identifying who might become useful allies and who could eventually threaten her goals. For Sherlock, this becomes an important learning experience. Up until this point, many of his investigations have focused on solving individual crimes. But Shou'an's plan forces him to think on a much larger scale. Instead of chasing a single culprit, he must analyze a web of relationships, motivations, and long-term strategies. As the season moves closer to its climax, the scattered clues finally begin to align. Sherlock realizes that the key to solving the mystery is understanding Shou'an's overall objective. Once he sees how each event fits into her larger design, the seemingly unrelated incidents suddenly make sense. However, even when Sherlock uncovers parts of her plan, it doesn't mean the danger is over. Shou'an has already built layers of contingency into her strategy. Some of the outcomes she set in motion continue unfolding even after her involvement becomes clearer. This shows just how far ahead she has been thinking from the very beginning. By the end of the season, Shou'an emerges as more than just another antagonist in Sherlock's life. She represents the kind of intellectual rival who challenges him not just to observe the world more carefully, but to think more strategically. Her plan forces Sherlock to grow as a detective, pushing him to develop the analytical skills that will eventually define his future. And in many ways, that may be the most important part of Shou'an's role in Young Sherlock. She isn't just an obstacle for Sherlock to overcome. She is the kind of brilliant opponent who shapes the detective he is destined to become.